Shalom, it's Levi Shore. Welcome back to Sweet Good Torah. All right, so as we head into the month of Adar, we're approaching Purim and the great Megillah Esther, the amazing story of our rescue from the wicked Haman and Achashveirosh. And we're seeing before our eyes unfold in the news a new Purim story with Iran, with the new Persian Empire, with the Islamic Republic of Iran and their pursuit of nuclear weapons, if they already have them. I think a few weeks ago they said they were already a nuclear power. So first, we're going to take a step back. We're going to look at the Megillah Esther. We're going to see how we were saved back in the days of Mordecai and Esther, and then we'll take a look at the current situation and we'll compare it to. Let me see if I can bring up the Megillah here. Okay, so we'll start close to the beginning. And here at the beginning of the, this is in the first parak of the Megillah Esther. And it says here, Vayomer Mukan. And we learned from the Gemara that Mukan is the wicked Haman, as some people pronounce his name. And he says, Mukan or Haman, he says, Lifnei HaMelech, before the king, the Hasarim and his ministers, V'lo al HaMelech levado avsa Vashti Hamalka. And he's saying it's not only against the king that that Vashti has done wrong. Ki al kol hasarim. It's also against all the ministers, ve'al kol hamim, and all like the nations, all the people, asher b'kol medinos, and all the countries, hamelech Achashveirosh, and all the countries ruled in the Persian Empire of King Achashveirosh. And then ki yetze davar hamalka al kol hanashim, and that the queen's actions, like her behavior, it's going to go out to all the women, lehavzos ba'alehem, and they're going to despise their husbands, bi'amra, and they're going to say, hamelech Achashveirosh amar lahavias Vashti, that King Achashveirosh, he wanted Vashti to come before him, Vashti Amalka, that Queen Vashti should come before him, Lifana, before him, Velova, and she didn't come. Let me see if I can go down here. And then, let's see. So, right, so that was the first part of Hamans Advice to Achashveirosh. And so where do we know that Memucan, that he is Haman? It says in the Gemara that his name is Memucan, because he was Mukan. He was like destined or prepared for destruction. And we're going to see how the whole events, everything that Haman set up, that Hashem, it's this concept of a fachaku, like Hashem completely turns it over, and whatever Haman and Achashveirosh have planned, Hashem completely turns it over and reverses it. And we'll see that we really need this in our days. So Haman, his advice to King Achashveirosh was a couple things. So first thing, he wanted a law written that Vashti should never appear before the king ever again. And this way, when Haman, his advice was to kill Queen Vashti, she would never be able to seek revenge against Haman, because she would never appear before the king again. Second, he wanted to give the royal estate to another queen, more fit, more deserving than Vashti. And then we see here that Haman, the enemy of the Jews, the wicked descendant of Amalek, is actually setting up that Esther, that Esther Hadassah will become the queen, and that she'll inherit the royal estate of Vashti. And then he wanted a letter sent out. It says, "V'kol hanashim yitnu yikar lebaylehem lemigadol v'akatan." And he said that all the women, that they should give honor to their husbands, from the greatest until the smallest. And then it says in the Megillah Esther, the Gemara of Megillah, it says that these letters were so silly that when the first letters went out that were so silly, then when the letter went out to harm the Jews, the people didn't take it seriously, because then the full message was Ko ish sorer bebeso, that every man, he should rule in his house. And it's kind of interesting because after these post-feminist days we live in, I don't know if every man does rule in his house. It's kind of an interesting concept, but this was considered very silly in the ancient world, that a man should rule in his house. Of course, the father, the husband should have say in his own house. It says umidaber b'lashon amo, and it should speak the language of his own people. Like everyone should speak the language of their nation. But because of these decrees, it's very interesting. Haman, like Hashem, set up his whole downfall. And like, because he said like the wife must speak the language of the husband, so Esther, when she was the queen, she only spoke Persian to Achashverosh, and then he never really knew that she was Jewish because she never spoke in Lashon HaKodesh. All right, so then we'll go to the third parak. Let me see if I can bring it up here. And this was Haman's plan to kill the Jewish people. And it says here, so this is the third parak. It's pasuk 8. It's the 8th verse. It says, "Vayomer Haman lamelech Achashverosh." So Haman says to King Achashveirosh, "Yeshnu am echad," that there is this certain people. There's this one people, mefuzar. They're scattered, umeforad, and they're dispersed. Bein hamim. They're dispersed upon all the other nations. And you'll see the anti-Semites throughout the ages, even now. You'll see it on Twitter and Facebook. All the anti-Semites. They'll say, like, the Jewish people, they separate themselves from all the rest of the nations. They're spread out in all the countries. You hear the claims of like they're not loyal to the countries they're in, and he's also saying they're ripe for attack. And then Mefarshim say, like, if you destroy this people, it's not a big deal because they're just spread out thinly across your whole empire. And they're bechol medinos. They're in all the countries malchus secha of your kingdom. V'dasehem shonos mikol. And their laws, the Torah, it's different from the laws of all other people. Ve'estase hamelech einam osim, and the laws of the king, they don't do. So this is very interesting because it says in Gemara, Megillah, that every time the Megillah says Melech Achashveirosh, it's speaking specifically about King Achashveirosh. But anytime the Megillah just says Melech, king, it's also referring to Hashem, the Malchei Malachim, the King of Kings. And then here, Haman's accusation is kind of interesting. He's saying the Jewish people aren't following the king's laws. They're not following the Torah, Chas v'shalom. Jewish people are not following the laws of Hashem, his laws, his Torah laws. V'lamelech ein shoveh lahanicham. And it's not in like the interest of the king. And this is also referring to Hashem. It's interesting. It's not interested in the king, Chas v'shalom, to put up with them, to tolerate them. And he's also saying it to King Achashveirosh. It's not in your interest to tolerate them. So then he says, Im al hamelech tov, yikasev la'abdam. If it pleases if it's good to the king, if it's good to you, to destroy them, they should be given to destruction. V'aseres alafim kikar kesef. So then he says that, I'll pay you, like Haman was saying, I'll pay you 10,000 talents of silver to destroy them, basically. And eshkol al yedei ose hamalka, and it'll be given to the treasury, the treasury, the servants that run your treasury, the royal treasury, lahavi es ginze hamelech, and they should go into the royal treasury house. So Haman wanted to pay these 10,000 silver talents. Okay, so how much is a silver talent in today's market? So it says in the Art Scroll Megillah that the estimated value would be about 24 million ounces of silver. I looked it up today. As of today, an ounce of silver is $24.13. So what would it be? It would be a whopping $579,120,000 that Haman paid to Achashveirosh to kill the Jewish people, to completely destroy the Jewish people. And what's interesting, it says in the Gemara that it was like one man had a hole in his field and one man had a mound of dirt. And it's like, the man wants to get rid of the mound of dirt and the other man needs his hole filled in. And like both of them were very, excited about this plan. And I think Achashveirosh, he didn't even take Haman's money. All right, so let me show you something very scary about, and then we're going to switch gears now to the modern events that are happening. And I'm going to bring up this article from the Washington Post. Haman paid a little over $1 billion to kill the Jewish people back in the days of the Persian Empire. So I think a lot of people don't really understand this. I'm going to bring up an article from the Washington Post. Now, this was written it's written by Glenn Kessler on October the 25th. Iran oil sales are surging and Hamas is terrorizing. Is Biden to blame? And I think a lot of Jewish people are very loyal to the Democrats, and I don't think they fully understand what's going on. So the article goes on, it says, we had to destroy Hamas, but you could not do it without confronting Iran. They need to change their policies. Iran only had 4 billion in the foreign exchange when Biden took office. They now have 70 billion. Iran only produced 400,000 barrels of oil a day when Biden took office. They now produce 3 million. They're getting billions of dollars to fund terrorism around the world. What is so infuriating is over the last 2.5 years, I believe this was former Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy speaking, Joe Biden and the Biden administration have flown nearly $100 billion to Iran, have flowed nearly $100 billion to Iran. The biggest pot of money deals with the refusal of the Biden administration to enforce oil sanctions. U.S. law puts tough oil sanctions on Iran. Biden came in, immediately stopped enforcing them. Today, Iran is sending 2 million barrels a day of oil. That has produced 80 billion, roughly, in revenue. That is funding the Hamas death squads. That is funding the rockets. That is funding terrorism. Right, so I don't know if a lot of people are really getting this perspective of what's going on, but Iran, the Persian Empire still today, they're funding all the proxy groups. They're attacking Israel from all sides. So Iran's funding, Hamas in Gaza. They're funding Hezbollah, Chas v'Sham. I think there was an exchange of 100 rockets yesterday on Rosh Chodesh Adar, the first day of Ramadan, and there's and there's the Houthis that they're literally blocking international commerce in the Red Sea and the Straits of Hormuz, I'm guessing the Persian Gulf. They're interrupting international commerce. I think the U.S. does have forces over there. The U.K. has forces, some other countries, there's forces that are really fighting defensively, not offensively, not taking out the Houthis' complete control. And no one is attacking Iran directly, really. Like Israel attacks some Iranian soldiers that are in Syria, but no one has attacked Iran directly, even though this is the new Persian, new Persian assault on the Jewish people. Iran is pursuing nuclear weapons. If they don't already have them, they want the option to destroy the Jewish people. Okay, I don't know if you get it yet. It's like, I don't know if October 7th was enough of a wake-up call. There's terrorist attacks all over the world now. There's almost like a third intifada happening in Israel itself as they're fighting this multi-front war. But the story is even a little more complicated because we don't have a great tzaddik like Mordecai, and we don't have a Queen Esther right now married to a king of a powerful empire. This election we have in America is going to be very confusing. We have the Biden administration that has been hamstringing the Israeli government. And the Israeli government it goes back to what I was talking about with Mordecai. We don't have a great tzaddik, a great Torah scholar leading the whole Jewish people. We're being led by secular politicians, both in Israel and America, and the Enlightenment has blinded our eyes to our true ally, who has saved us for thousands of years. That's Hashem, our God, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob, the infinite, all-powerful being. That's who's protected us. That's who we need to call out to. And we cannot rely on these secular politicians. I mean, I don't know what you think about him, but President Biden is a very, very feeble man. A lot of time, it seems like he's going into more and more dementia. He falls upstairs, he falls downstairs. I mean, he falls over his words. Yet the very first thing this man did after this massacre on the Shabbos of Simchas Torah, this Nazi atrocity level massacre, a couple weeks later, he goes running over to give humanitarian aid to the Palestinians in Gaza. I'm sorry, there's this illusion that there's like different Palestinians. The Palestinian people in Israel, they're Yishmaelim, they're Arabs. That's it. It's not some magical, formula. It's, the Palestinian people that have the 7 terrorist groups that teach their children to hate Jews from the time they are little children in their school systems. It's time to wake up. I'm sorry, the poor Palestinian thing it's going away. They're killing Jewish people. Wake up. They're rioting in America. It's time to wake up. Purim is coming. This is a very, very powerful month. Okay, we are in Adar Sheni. We are in Purim. We're heading to Pesach. We're heading to Passover. It's time to wake up. We need to call on who really protects us, and that's Hashem, our God. It's time to take off the Enlightenment blinders, and it's time to return to the beauty, the sweetness of the Torah and the mitzvos. I know it's tough, but we got to hear it. We got to get going, and we got to have fachachu. We got to see Hashem flip it all over. And Bizrat Hashem, we'll see our secular leaders replaced with Mashiach, a righteous, a tzaddik, a holy person, a holy man, a good person, someone that actually cares about people, not empty politicians with their empty words. Okay, it's a lot going on. This new Purim story is building up. We're heading in more and more to the Mafladar. May we see great Yeshuas. May we finally see the rescue of the hostages in Gaza. And may we see great salvation for the Jewish people. And may this be where every day is filled more and more with simcha. The simchas Torah that was attacked. May we fill our lives with simchas Torah from this day on. Okay, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope to see you back again soon on Sweet and Good Torah.